Is it audible at the back? Can you hear? Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahagiryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Puranamuna Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandadhami Bhagavad-gīte Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Devyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapada Kramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidussura suraganaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. So we are seeing the Sthita Prajna Lakshana, the characteristics of a man who has attained fulfillment. So earlier we saw that the question of Arjuna is in two parts. One is when that person is in the state of samadhi, having transcended the identification with the body, mind, intellect, what is the experience of that person? And second is that how does that person live? How does he move? How does he talk? How does he relate with people? So for the first question, Bhagavan answered that when a person becomes completely desireless in that state of contemplation, transcends the ego and abides in the self, Atmani eva Atmana Tushta, that person is called as a realized person or a Sthita Prajna, whose identification is with the absolute truth that I am that. It is not a question of only experiencing some stillness of the mind and again coming back, but whose basic identification has changed. My identity today is that I am this body, I am this individual. But the person's identification has changed, that this is only an equipment, this is a tool, I am not this. I am that which is enlivening it, I am the self. So that is the experience of the master in the state of samadhi. Having experienced that, how does one live in the world? So it was said that the person will not be disturbed by the greatest of tragedies also, dukheshu anudvignamana. Sukheshu vigataspraha. Person will not have desire to repeat a pleasurable or an enjoyable experience. Meaning one lives in spontaneity. Right now, in this moment, as life comes, one keeps accepting it. And one is beyond these three: attachment, fear and anger. Raga, Bhaya and Krodha. In that context, we also saw that Raga is the cause of Bhaya and Krodha. Attachment is the cause of fear and anger, both. If I get what I want, I am scared of losing you. If I don't get what I want, I have anger. So such a person who has these three, while relating with people and situations, actually here it is with situations. When situations come, favorable or unfavorable, the person remains balanced. Why? Because there is no attachment. Then as far as people is concerned, yah sarvatra anabhisneha. There is nobody who is specially dear to this person and nobody one hates. Na abhinandati na dveshti. Will not praise anybody unduly, will not criticize anybody. Meaning will be loving to whoever comes. Appropriate behavior will happen. Because there is no selfishness in that person. So each person will see their own reflection in this master. So the master will be like a mirror. And hence the person is free from any attachment in relationships, no attachment to objects, no insistence on a situation being in a specific way. How has this person achieved this? That we saw the whole second chapter earlier, contemplation and karma yoga, etc. One most important quality of that master is the sense control. So the example was given that just like the tortoise, when it moves, the four limbs, the head, the tail, so these are 6 aspects, and with that the tortoise moves forward. And if there is any sign of any danger, it is said that from far away also if you drop a few grains of sand here and the tortoise is there, it is so sensitive that it may withdraw. So this is not out of withdrawal out of fear. For a seeker, the withdrawal has to be out of caution, that if anything harmful which is there, I see, I allow it to go into my mind, that creates my thoughts, that creates desire, that creates memories. And then that will play on my mind. So for a seeker, that is to withdraw out of fear or out of caution. For this master is very effortless. Not out of any fear the person withdraws. Something is not conducive, the person's mind just moves away from it. There is no question of any fear involved in it. So here the point comes of sense management. That's where we had stopped. That spirituality actually begins with sense management. Before I learn mind management, desire management, ego management, one has to start with sense management. And if sense management is not done, how much ever knowledge one may have, one will not have the maturity to live that knowledge. Example, I may know that attachment is the cause of sorrow. But if I have no sense control, I am attached to things like food, I am attached to certain type of movies or serials, or I am attached to certain types of books. If I don't have sense control, even though intellectually I know, I won't be able to live spirituality. And if you see in today's life, it's very strange. We all want to have peace of mind, but the moment sense management comes into play, one says, no, that is very tough. That cannot be done. So we allow anything to go into our mind, we see anything, hear anything, taste anything, talk anything. Then the mind is disturbed. And then one needs to have peace. Without stopping these, it is not possible. So example given here is very relevant even to everyone living in the world, because it is not saying about not seeing, not hearing, not tasting, not smelling, not touching. It is not complete denial. But it is intelligent withdrawal. One must know when to employ the senses, when to withdraw the senses. If that capacity we have, we can enjoy the world also and yet be unaffected by it. That's why the example of the tortoise is given. Because the tortoise knows when to employ, when to withdraw. So if I am sitting in meditation, I must be able to withdraw the senses fully and focus on the Lord or on my object of meditation. But what happens to us is, when we try to do that time the maximum desires come up, maximum memories come. One starts imagining. You can try. The day you do upvas, that is the day you will feel. And if somebody is eating in front of you something delicious, then you have it. Black forest. The day we observe Maun, that is the day all the thoughts will come to us that I have to tell this important thing to this person and that appointment has to be fixed, and if I don't do this, anarth ho jayega. So for the sake of welfare of the world, I may say 2 sentences. That is, if I am intelligent, I may do. Otherwise, with actions, make everybody's life miserable. I have to do Maun, but for my Maun, everybody else become more active. What do you want to say? Explain, express, bolo, ye. Simple. You are not understanding. They are saying, he is saying, just lift this and put it here. That's all. But no. So many actions will be done. So the day I try to control, that is the day you will see the senses rebel, because we are not trained. This sense management is simple, practical, and if one starts applying, one will see a lot of peace happening instantly. Did we discuss a few points about sense management? No? First point in sense management is deny to the body what is harmful to the body, and deny it firmly. Our problem is we don't deny it firmly. We say no for some time, then we say, thoda to chalega, this is okay, little bit. That, what we say, that mental resolve, that willpower is not strong enough. Little bit one compromise. Little bit one compromises and slowly it starts. So if I decide something, is harmful for me, let us say smoking is harmful, or keeping up till late in the night is harmful. Eating some type of very spicy, oily food, harmful. Listening to gossip, harmful. So if I know, okay, these are the things which are harmful, I must be very, very firm and clear that this I will not do. If there is possibility to move away from that place, move away. If there is no possibility to move away, withdraw the mind. Straight away withdraw the mind, don't be indifferent to it. What if other person feels bad? Why should we care about that at that moment? Because I am allowing my mind to get polluted, then I can't be relating to that person selflessly and happily, because my mind has got disturbed. So it is in the interest of that person also. One doesn't have to be rude, but mentally one can withdraw. Many times one does that. That practice we have. In satsang, suddenly we withdraw. We are sitting here, but the mind is with the child at home. Speaker doesn't know. That's what people think. Speaker knows instantly the moment you disconnect, because your look on the face will change. Straight. So the idea is that deny to the body what is harmful to the body. I should even sit and make a list here. What are the things that I am doing which are harmful to me? Which I know very well. But for some reason, I don't have enough control on that. So one is that, deny to the body what is harmful to the body. Second is, if there is something which I am very attached to, and I indulge in it impulsively, I must delay my gratification in that. There is a psychologist, I don't know if he's a psychologist, but he's a motivational speaker and writer, author. His name is Scott Peck. So he wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled. Long back. After that he may have written many more. One of his very nice books is The Road Less Traveled, and in that he speaks about this delaying gratification. Because impulsively one will feel, chalo, let me go and eat some chips. Especially, students and all of the youngsters, or even professionals, when they are in a lot of stress, they indulge in compulsive eating. Keep a packet of chips or samosa or chevda or something and keep eating, because when the mind is stressed, one feels one needs more energy, so one keeps on eating. It's a mental phenomenon. It's not actually physically that the body needs, but one eats. So impulsively, when one feels like that, at that moment what one has to do is delay. That I will eat, but not now, after 10 minutes. And chances are that in 10 minutes that impulse will go away. One doesn't have to bother. And suppose it doesn't go away, then okay, go and enjoy. But then the enjoyment is out of my self-control and mastery. That when I want, I have gone and done it. Not that, okay, the mind said and I went and did it. So that training not to give in for impulsiveness. And today with the gadgets that we have, this impulsiveness is so much in us that we don't realize. It's not only about eating, it's about email also. Keep on checking. Every 2 minutes, 5 minutes, email, WhatsApp, SMS, I don't know how many more, WeChat, what all has come out, so many new things. By the time you clear one, another has come. By the time you clear another, third has come. If everything is cleared, one should be peaceful and let it be. But no, keep checking 5 minutes. Kuch aaya. No need. Let us have some space to ourselves. So the impulsiveness is there in many things. In doing our work, in watching some serial, or just talking. Impulsively one feels like doing it. That time one has to delay. So that is second point. First point is saying no when the body, what is harmful to the body. Second is delay the gratification. Third is cultivate sattvic ways of entertainment. That everybody needs to relax, everybody needs to unwind, everybody needs to have some enjoyment in life. Nothing wrong with that. Sense management doesn't mean that every enjoyment goes away, but there needs to be sattvic ways of enjoyment, which will energize the mind and not deplete its energies. Rajasic ways disturb. Excitement, maja, masti, dance, drama, this, that. By the end of it, one is tired. Or tamasic ways. Drink, fall down unconscious, take some drugs. And so many things one does which are very tamasic. And unfortunately, that has become the way of celebration nowadays. If there is something to celebrate, how to celebrate? Drinks. And if one is depressed also, drinks. Both the ways. So tamasic. When mind becomes dull, lethargic, one has to find sattvic ways of entertainment. Some soothing music, or some nice scenery, or even photography, or painting, or whatever. There are lots of options available. Even in the newspaper, one can choose the sattvic items and read them. There are lots of rajasic things which keep happening where one is, the moment you read that, one gets very disturbed. And that's why some people say, I have stopped reading the newspaper. It's very disturbing. So many things which are coming. So they are rajasic, or some things which are very tamasic. These things, so one has to be very alert in that. So if I cultivate sattvic ways of enjoyment, even humor, there are such nice jokes that one can enjoy. One can laugh. One doesn't have to go to laughing club. And early in the morning induce some special laughter, stand and laugh. Ha 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 ha. It may help, it does help a lot of people, but humor one has in one's life, naturally one can enjoy every moment, take things lightly. So sattvic ways of entertainment one has to find by oneself. Our Gurudev used to watch tennis, read Asterix comics, Tintin, Asterix, all that he used to love. I like Calvin and Hobbes. Keep reading Calvin and Hobbes. Or Guruji likes jokes, so he keeps cracking jokes. And he loves his harmonium, so he plays his bhajans on the harmonium. So each one has to find for oneself, okay, these are the sattvic ways by which I can unwind. So that is the third point. That sattvic ways of enjoyment, entertainment, one should find out. Fourth point is moderation. There will be times when it is not possible sometimes to follow everything as per my own discipline and rules. So I may have to go to a wedding, and I may have to, somebody forces there, I may eat a little bit more. Some things can happen that way. Or I may keep up till late in the night for some reason. Balance and moderation has to come, whereby I can, so if I have indulged extra at some point in time, I should compensate that with some, maybe a fast or maybe some lighter food I have. Or so moderation is important, one aspect, and balance is a second aspect. In sense management, moderation is very, very important. Because if we deny totally, it will be suppression. And if we indulge completely, it will be expression. And that will create more and more desire. So neither suppression nor complete expression, sublimation is important. So how do I do that? Moderately. Enjoy moderately. If I have the capacity to eat 4 laddus and I have eaten 2, stop with that. Because in the long run, I can enjoy more. You see, people don't understand. They think sense management is to deny some enjoyment to me. It is not to deny, it is to prolong my capacity to enjoy. If I understand that very well, then my senses can be sensitized and used effectively. My capacity to enjoy will increase only. Nowadays, if you see, what we do makes the senses grosser and grosser. So earlier there used to be, there were no headphones, you had to listen. Then the headphones came, so they were outside. Then they put it inside. Now they put it inside the ear, made it so, customized to the shape, पूरा अंदर ही डाल दिया उसको. And at what volume one listens. After that, you see, if you are trained with that for a few years, you remove it, half the things you can't listen. So senses, what is happening to the senses? They are becoming grosser and grosser. Senses need to be sensitized more and more. How will we sensitize them? By using them moderately, by using them in a sensitive way. So one is, I spoke about moderation, that no indulgence extra must be there. You see, if every day, let us say, simple example, suppose you watch TV for 1 hour, you will not be exhausted. Also depends on what you watch. But if I watch for 3 hours, what happens? Gone. I have done nothing, I am just sitting and watching. But get tired. Why? Because the senses get drained. With every action, we spend pranic energy. You see, sense management is very, very important to conserve the pranic energy in us. Like petrol is the fuel for the car, prana is the fuel for human body. And this prana is depleted in every transaction of ours. Even if I don't do anything extravagant, just simply sitting and listening and watching and talking, that also depletes the prana. Breathing also depletes prana. Everything, every moment the pranic energy is getting burnt, utilized. So sense management is to conserve and control that pranic energy, and generally the pranic energy flows downwards. If I learn to do proper pranayam, meditation, etc., and complement that with the sense management, the pranic energy can flow upwards, which is the spiritual, which will awaken that dormant spiritual energies within us. Then we don't need extra supplements and stress management techniques and all that, because the pranic energy is very, very powerful. So to conserve the pranic energy. So moderation is important because any indulgence extra will drain away more pranic energy. And that's why in our culture, brahmacharya is one of the very important values of Sanatana Dharma. It is not meant for somebody who is just a student or somebody who is a renunciate. Brahmacharya literally means one who lives in moderation, so that the person's mind is available to think about the higher, which is Brahman. So popularly people think that a person who is unmarried is a brahmachari, which is one meaning. Because carnal pleasure is the most uh, exhausting enjoyment. And second comes speaking. These two drain away a lot of energy. And so if a person wants to conserve, then one says, okay, conserve. So brahmachari, one. But any householder also, if one follows moderation, is following brahmacharya. So if I excessively talk, I violated brahmacharya. If I excessively watch a television, I violated brahmacharya. If I keep up till late in the night and start doing whatever, Facebooking, browsing, chatting, then I violated brahmacharya. Because my pranic energy is getting depleted. So moderation, no extremes, and balance. If I have broken some way, my balance is gone out, I have to come back to it. So some in spirituality we call it as tapas. So if I have indulged, then I have to do some tapas, so that I make up for that loss. So that is one part. And this capacity to train the senses is the last point. Sense management is also about sensitizing my senses. So how do I improve my capacity to see, to observe, the capacity to listen, the capacity to speak? We don't train. Our senses are so powerful, very, very powerful they are. If you ask the scientists now, they will tell you. When they try to create something like our eye, they find it very amazing that it's very difficult to create, because to get one picture in the mind, one clear image in the mind of this scene right now, the brain is processing, the eyeball is processing, and how many things it is processing, collating it all together and putting it. It is said that our brain, human brain, is processing, I think, 2.2 billion bits of information per minute. 2.2 billion bits. Even a supercomputer doesn't process that much. 2.2 billion bits of information it keeps on processing every minute. Now imagine how much of energy that requires. So in sense management, these are various things. So he says when a person has this capacity to manage the senses, one will have a lot of pranic energy. That person can go deep into meditation. If not in meditation, through the day the person will have so much of enthusiasm. One will not get tired. Otherwise one finds ordinary things make a person tired, exhausted, weak, fatigued. There is no stamina. And generally one thinks that if I go to the gym, if I do exercise, I will build my stamina. That is one part which is necessary and one can build. But the conservation of that energy through the day. That's why Swami Chinmayananda used to tell us that life is a death-long discipline. A death-long discipline. It continues. You have to live in the discipline, especially if one is a spiritual seeker. One cannot afford to compromise. And when one starts implementing these points, one will know, okay, these are the things when I am doing, instant results you will see. That's why we have called it as Gita in practice. These are all practical points. You can apply straight away. Even one of them you apply, you will see the benefit. So this is the example of the tortoise. Now when I withdraw, when I stay away from the senses, by merely staying away, will it help? That okay, I like something very much, now I stay away. So let us say I take a vow or an oath that for next 1 year I will not touch chocolate. or for the next 1 year I will keep mount from this time to this time. So withdrawal of the senses is one part, that I want to master my senses, so I withdraw the senses from the sense objects for some time. Along with that, there is something else I have to do, because by itself that is not enough. Why? The next verse will tell us, 59th verse will tell us. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So he says here, these two are actually verses which go together, and the whole science of sense management is there in these two. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. A person who withdraws from the senses, sense objects also withdraw from that person. Example, suppose I am a smoker and I keep smoking. People around me will be people who are smoking. Suppose I stop smoking and I don't want to smoke at all. Slowly my company also will change. He doesn't smoke only. So people also will change. If I withdraw from something, that sense object also withdraws. Or the kind of people around me, that also withdraw. Though they also withdraw. But that is not enough. Because there is still a taste for it in the mind. Rasa varjam. That rasa is still there in the mind. Which keeps tempting. You live for in self-control for 2 months full. You didn't even look at that. Chalo, aaj ek ho jaye. Start. This happens to everything. Somebody's sugar is very high, 600 it has reached. He says, no sweet. Not even in chai I will take sugar. I will drink Fika chai. 3 full months. And the blood test is done, and the sugar level has come down. Rejoice! How? Take 3 spoons, put it in the tea and drink. Why? Because the rasa is still in the mind. That externally one has withdrawn, one saw the benefit, all that happened, but the taste is still inside. How will that taste go? Rasa varjam. Vishaya vinivartante rasa varjam. The senses are, because the senses also follow the law of demand and supply. If there is a demand in me, supply will come. If the demand stops, supply will also stop. But the taste inside is still there, which can create further demand. How will that go? So he says, param drishtva nivartate. During that time of withdrawal, I must turn my mind to something higher. And when I experience that higher joy, this taste of the lower joy will also go away. Then there is complete sense control. Otherwise the sense control is incomplete. Because the taste is still there, and the moment a conducive environment comes about, it's finished. One author, he said, to quit smoking is so easy. I have already done it 200 times. What is the point? Every time he quit smoking for a few days, again he picked it up. Why? Because the taste is still inside. While that person has quit smoking, one has to do these 2 things. See the pain of smoking and see the pleasure of not smoking, and that is not enough. If I can turn the mind to something much more subtler, maybe devotion, or maybe the joy of selflessness, or maybe seva, something where I can channelize my energies and I experience that higher joy, the lower joy will follow. But if I don't do that, it is only willpower. Through willpower, sheer willpower, I have held back. The moment that opportunity comes, it will burst everything and go out again. So the formula for sublimation is this: higher purpose plus understanding plus withdrawal is equal to sublimation. These 3 must be there. There has to be a withdrawal, plus the understanding of why am I withdrawing, why this is harmful, how there is a better thing which I can do, and I must channelize my energy to something which is higher. So if I am used to too much of talking, I have withdrawn now, limited my talking. I have to understand the joy of silence. I have to understand the pain of going on talking all the time. But that is not enough. If I can channelize that energy to, let us say, I learn a new hobby or I go and serve somebody, then that energy is channelized. So that way these three are very important. Otherwise, what typically one does is, many people don't want to withdraw the senses. They say that it's okay, being in the midst of the sense enjoyment and not being affected by it is the sense mastery that I want, Swamiji. That is what we are trying to achieve. Because going away from it is very easy. That is all intellectual talk, it is all nonsense. Nothing will happen. Because that person doesn't have the power to say no to the senses, saying nothing doing, this cannot happen, full stop. So one wants to continue to indulge. So one doesn't withdraw. Simply intellectually one tries to tell oneself, that won't help. If I simply withdraw without understanding, that also won't help, because it will be suppression. For some time I will withdraw and keep, again I will indulge. So I need both withdrawal plus understanding plus channelizing of that energy into something higher. This can apply to any type of addiction also, any type of attachment to sense objects, any attachment to person also. Withdrawal plus understanding plus higher purpose. That is called sublimation. So that's why he says param drishtva nivartate. When I see that joy of something higher, it will go away. In this case, the master has experienced the supreme joy. The bliss which is not caused. We only know the joy which is caused. Some sense object I have to enjoy, then I feel happy. Some emotional satisfaction, some praise, some love, some care, some appreciation, then I feel happy. Some intellectual achievement, some creative expression, some success, then I feel happy. So there is a cause. But just like in deep sleep, there is no cause and yet I am happy. But that I experience consciously through meditation, through transcending the ego, when I forget myself. That joy is the supreme joy, where I have lost myself totally, absorbed myself fully. Having experienced that, the person is free. The senses no more trouble that person. Why? Because the taste from inside is gone. And all of us have experienced this. It is not something new that we are talking. Does anybody here have a taste for Barbie doll? Anyone? One would have been attached to it for so long in the childhood. One can't sleep without it. But suppose one is attached to it right now, then there is some problem. Will one try to go away from that doll? Arey, isko mere samne mat lao, I am getting very tempted. Nothing will happen. Even if the child is playing with it, nothing happens. No temptation, no aversion, nothing. Why? Because one has risen above. The taste for it is not there. Why? Because the higher taste one has experienced. One has grown up. Same thing applies in this. When one experiences the bliss of samadhi, it is said that the joy that that person experiences is like a small drop in the ocean of bliss that Brahmaji experiences. Brahmaji experiences one small drop, the creator. The creator experiences the highest form of bliss because he is the creator who has created all this. So his joy is the highest. But his joy also is one drop in the ocean of bliss that this realized master experiences. And that's why analogies are given in our culture, that Indra also becomes a servant of this person. Meaning, so liberated is that person. The experience of that person is of that infinite beatitude and bliss. That having experienced that, any type of joy of the world is very, very ordinary. One doesn't even get tempted by it. even if it is brought in front. This is what is depicted through various stories in our culture. That when a rishi is sitting to meditate, and then Indra, suddenly his throne gets shaken up, and he feels very scared, somebody is meditating and they will occupy my position. So then he sends the Apsaras, go and dance in front of these people. Now these Apsaras come and dance. The famous story is of that Vishwamitra. And Vishwamitra, at some point he lost. His sense control was not still complete. So he had only done the withdrawal. So it's all depiction of human mind's journey toward in evolution. So at that point it was only withdrawal. Taste is still inside. So then he could not control. And he fell for it. And then he realized, oh, this is not enough to withdraw. And then later on he mastered. So that Indra is our own mind. And all these apsaras are all the tempting situations and the memories which come to us. And the seeker initially gets carried away also. But then when one has understood this, all the three, that there has to be a higher purpose, plus understanding, plus the withdrawal, sense mastery happens. So a person has that sense mastery. Now Bhagavan tells us here that to master these senses is not a joke, because they are very, very turbulent. And he gives an example here. He says, Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschita. Even a very knowledgeable person, putting in lots of effort to control the senses, still that person also finds it difficult to control the senses. Why? Indriyani pramathini. These senses are extremely turbulent and restless. Haranti prasabham manah. They just snatch away the peace of mind of everybody. And one sense is enough. When Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya gives that example, that each animal, he gives examples of 5 animals. So he says that the deer runs very fast, but the deer is attached to sound. So if the hunter has to catch the deer, the hunter has to only play some music, and especially the stringed instruments. If the hunter plays that, the deer will stop to listen. Hunter will finish it. The moth is attached to the form. So in the rainy season, etc., you will find so many of them coming into the flame or the tube light, and they get burnt. The fish is attached to the taste. The bee is attached to the smell. So it goes and sits on the flower and sips the nectar. It knows that it is getting dark and the flower is closing. But then the attachment to that nectar is so much that it gets trapped inside. And the elephant is attached to the touch. So these elephants walk very casually, mating season, and they both touching against each other, they walk. They can't see that there is a pit which has been covered with some grass falling, and the hunter catches them. So Shankaracharya ji says that each of these animals is attached to one sense organ, and they meet their destruction almost. What to talk about man, who is attached to all the 10. Imagine the senses, how much pull they have on us. And without managing these senses, I want to have peace of mind. It will only become pieces, no peace will come. Because each sense is pulling the mind. We had a tug of war. In one place when we had a tug of war, both these parties are pulling. And the way they pulled, both of them fell. Because the rope only broke. Our mind is like that. Being pulled from all 10 directions with all the 10 senses. What happened? The mind only will collapse. And today the amount of sense stimulation that is available is terrific. first step in spirituality begins with that. Start controlling the senses. So he says here that here is a person who has done that and finds it very difficult. Even a wise person will find it difficult. A realized man has done it with great effort. So even a wise person feels it absolutely difficult. But he gives one key, that this is one key. If you follow this, then sense management becomes easy. He says that in the 61st verse. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashe hi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. So the word important in this shloka is matparaha. Tani sarvani sanyamya, having controlled all these senses, yukta asita matparaha. When the mind is completely tuned in devotion to the Lord, that devotion is the key. Where I consider the Lord as the supreme, that okay, I need to be one with the Lord, or I need to know the truth. Whatever one thinks of it as the goal of life, that I must experience supreme happiness, whatever one thinks. When I keep that in mind very clearly and I have devotion towards that, then Vashehi Yasyendriyani, then all the senses come in control. Don't we see that? That happens to us even for small things. When there is an exam and I have to clear that exam, what do? I start living in self-control. No TV, no cricket, no friends, no this, no that. Why? Because the goal is important and I have to focus. Here it is not just an ordinary goal. Here it is the supreme goal of life. And when there is devotion in the heart, then the senses also get subdued. Why? Because devotion is a fulfillment unto itself. One doesn't need anything. The joy or devotee experiences just of thinking of the Lord, just listening to the name of the Lord. The joy is so much, it is incomparable. No amount of sense pleasure will come anywhere near to that. And the person who has had that joy, who is by the grace of the Lord, by the efforts that the person is putting in, matparaha, one considers the Lord as a supreme and tries to sincerely seek the Lord, tries to tune up the mind in devotion. Even every day if one sits 10 minutes, 15 minutes quietly away from every other role and responsibility and tries to invoke devotion, feel grateful to the Lord that how much the Lord has given to us, and tune up with the Lord through a bhajan or through a prayer or through some mantra, or just talk to the Lord. Basically prayer means communication, commune with the Lord, to tune up. And when I tune up with that Lord, I tune up with the real source of joy and happiness. The world is only a reflected source of the same Lord. But I don't see the world as a reflection of the Lord. I see the world as separate objects. That's why I get attached. So when I tune up to the real source of the Lord, of joy, that is the Lord, literally one feels rasa, ananda ras one will feel. If you do japa, or if you do any prayer or bhajan, mind becomes quiet and the emotion of devotion has come into the heart and you feel so uplifted and thrilled. That mind is so peaceful. One literally feels as though some juice is flowing in one's heart, which no amount of sense pleasure will give, because sense pleasure will give only sensory tickling. It can only tickle the senses and it can give some emotional or a mental satisfaction that yeah, I got what I wanted. That's all. Beyond that it can't do anything. So a person will experience that joy. And you will see that it's not only in the case of devotion. When you lose yourself in something completely, there's so much of joy which no sense object can give. That is a small example for it. A person who is in devotion experiences extraordinary amount of joy. It's only a question of channelizing the feeling towards the Lord. When one does that, senses easily come under control. Suppose that is difficult to do. Our culture has prescribed such a beautiful method to experience this. Suppose I am attached to eating, seeing, smelling, touching, all that, and I can't withdraw immediately. Even in meditation or prayer, it doesn't withdraw. Then our culture says doesn't matter. If you are attached, don't worry. If you are attached to food, immediately you don't have to stop. Bhagwan ko lagao 56 bhog. Offer it all to Bhagwan and then you eat. So at least the thought of Bhagwan is there. While I am cooking, I am doing it for Bhagwan. So I can't eat. I have to first offer. What all Bhagwan will like, find out, 56 bhog. Then write down and start making. Then offer it to the Lord. All through that, what will happen? I am thinking that this is for the Lord, this is for the Lord, this is for the Lord. So it is not that suddenly I have to deny. If I am attached to certain sense objects, offer it to the Lord and then have. Slowly, slowly you will find that when I think of the Lord, that joy of thinking of the Lord only is so much that this all will just, one doesn't even feel like doing it afterwards. That way the senses come into control. By willpower to control the senses, very tough. At some point or the other it will break. But as I said earlier, that is necessary. By willpower to withdraw, then put the understanding and the higher purpose. That higher purpose is this mat paraha. If I tune myself in devotion, bas. It happens to us. The joy that a mother feels of bringing up a child, that joy is so much. The other things, what will they do? One doesn't. Person who loves the country, the joy of doing something for the country is so high. One is ready to sacrifice anything. We just had a youth camp, I Transform. 700 youngsters from all over the country. And our team is about 30 youth from Mumbai who organized this whole thing. They are normal, ordinary youth who have their professional commitments, all that. They took the leave and they came there because they feel for that cause. And all the 5 days was very hectic schedule. But every moment of that, there's so much of joy on their face, and we are keeping up till late in the night, 3 o'clock, because we have to keep planning, doing things, arranging for the next day, remove it. Lot of things have to be done. Till 3 in the morning, when they are sitting up there, again getting up in the morning at 6 o'clock, again doing the work and to look at those 700 people who have come there, who are so charged and inspired by spirituality, that was the satisfaction they had. And for that they were happy to sacrifice anything. Some of them have not eaten properly, some of them have not slept properly, they could not get time to meet their own friends and sit and chat and nothing but the joy that they experience in the seva. Ready to sacrifice. Happily also. So that way, when one feels that joy of anything higher, and the highest is mat paraha, devotion. So these 3 verses actually are the 4 verses. These are about sense management. Now tomorrow the Lord will go into a very special ladder. It is called the ladder of fall. That how a human being from the nature of peace and happiness falls very systematically, step by step. 8 steps of fall are given, that how we lose the peace of mind. And at any point if we recognize we can stop there, further fall can be prevented. And this is a very unique portion of the Gita. Nowhere else in any other scriptural literature of even the Hindus you will not find this kind of a description of a systematic way in which how the mind loses its own peace by its own doing. So that we will take up tomorrow and then further. So by this day after tomorrow we will complete this 2nd chapter. The Sthita Prajna Lakshan we can complete. So next month we start the Karma Yoga part. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru